Okay, folks there on Facebook, I'm here, I'm live, and we're down to, it says, about 45 seconds left before the program starts. So we're just doing the preliminary stuff here. So hope all is going well. So for everybody, okay? All right. It says we're down to about 30 seconds left. Okay. All right, all right. Okay. 30 seconds left. Okay. All right, all right.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here again tonight on the Cosmic Connections, and this is our July 12th program, and it's a pleasure to be back with you. It's been 3 weeks since I've been with you. 2 weeks ago, I was on an airplane flying to Norway, where I had a workshop in Oslo. And then last week, I was in a country in Africa. Now, it's best for security reasons that I don't give you the specific location because, there's quite a few countries that is there. But boy, if you look at what I did, I on Wednesday night, I got on the plane here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and then I flew to Amsterdam, changed planes in Amsterdam, flew to Oslo, Norway, was there for 3 nights, and then flew from Oslo back to Amsterdam, changed planes, went from Amsterdam to London, had a 2-hour layover, London, and then to Africa. I was there for 4 days, and then reversed the process from Africa back to London. But I took a stop in London, and I stayed with a friend for 2 days, and then went from London to Amsterdam, spent 1 night, and then Amsterdam back here to Texas, and that was a 12-day trip where I was gone. But in that time, since I've been on my last program, I have sent out 2 newsletters, and all of you have heard about the sad, sad news of Blanca. My absolutely wonderful friend and co-host here on the program, she passed away. She made her transition. And it was a kind of a shock to all of us. But, also I didn't realize that I never really got to know how old she was. And I think if I looked at it, I think she was 67 years old. But still, it was her time, and she made her transition. So Blanca won't be on the program with us anymore. And wow, what a loss, because she was just, I nicknamed her the best color commentator in the world. She added so much color to the program and the comments that I made, and she made this program so complete, and it will never, ever be the same without her. Now, what am I going to do to replace that? I don't know yet. I'll take some time, and there's no urgency for me to have a replacement of her, but she will be missed. Blanca, we love you dearly, and we trust you're doing well in your transition. So, that's the issue. Now, regarding news on the currency exchange, again, we don't have any new update other than the fact that we know that the Texas Processing Office, everything is ready to go. They're just waiting for the word to come from the decision makers at the very top who can authorize the release of the funds. Now, my understanding is that those are military people who are in those decisions. They are military people, and they make those decisions based on what's going on politically around the world. So there is nothing new to that. But I can say that on my trip to Africa, there's been a new opportunity opening up to possibly receive other large source of funds. Now, they are not a part of the exchange, so it has nothing to do with the exchange, but it is kind of an indication of some of the preliminary issues of large sums of money being moved around. So, and I have to be very, very careful that, again, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement about that. So I can say Africa and there's a possibility of some money exchanging, and I can't say much more about that on the program for security reasons. And remember, it's in security reasons for them as well as it is for me. So with that, then for the program tonight, I want to do something and talk about something that ties in with our lovely, lovely lady that we lost, and that was Blanca. And the whole issue about death and dying. This is something that I've been around and studying to understand it for a long time. 45 years ago, when I was in college, I was a religion major. And I remembered it in my senior year, I had a comparative religions class. And what I did, we had to do a major paper, research paper for the class. And so I did my paper on comparing the views of afterlife for all the major religions of the world. And it was interesting because we found out they all had the similar view. And these were the views that were just coming into being accepted by the medical industry and the mainstream media with that book that had become a bestseller called Life After Life. And it describes the events that people go through when they have what is called near-death experiences. They go through the process of almost dying, and some of them are even declared dead because they have no heartbeat or anything like that for a short period of time, but they come back. All of them explain a similar experience. You go through, you recognize that you're not, when you're dying, is that your soul leaves your body and you move into what is called the astral plane. And it is there that your consciousness expands immensely because you have no limitations on your thought process. And then you notice this very bright light, and it's a very powerful, inviting light. It's very loving in its presence, and it pulls you into it. So you look at it and you move in toward the light, and then it pulls you into this tunnel where you go through this long tunnel. You come out on the other side, and then you're met and greeted by loving and caring people, i.e., family members, parents, grandparents, etc., who have already gone through their transition. They've already passed away. They welcome you with loving, warming affection. And then what happens from there is, after that is done, then you are met by what some call a spiritual counselor or a guide. And they help you, and you go through what is called a life research, expansion, or you basically very rapidly you go through, and your whole life flashes before you in a very short period of time, and you see all the good things that you did, but you also see all of the, quote, not so positive things or bad things that you did that created karma within your life. And the guide says, you've done well in this area, but these are some issues, some areas that you still need to bring healing to or working on to clear out the karmic energy that is still within your soul. Because what they are saying is, when you do actions toward other people, there's an energy that you put out from that. And if you're filled with hatred, anger, jealousy, anxiety, fear, etc., all of those are low vibrational negative energies that have to be cleared out before you can move on or advance to what we are traditionally call heaven, or the higher state of ascension, the higher state of being. Before we can move on to that, we got to clear out all the old karmic energies. So they say you got to go back, i.e., you need to recycle or you need to reincarnate. And then so what happens is we go back through the tunnel, and then we wake up. Now, if it's a near-death experience, then you're waking up and you're still in the same body. If you actually die, you are reincarnated into a new body that is for most people is a baby, and you have to go through the whole birth process and the living process again. And what we don't and then with that comes an amnesia. We have complete amnesia of everything that happened in our lives. And what we don't realize that the vast majority of us have gone through hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes, reincarnations. Because if you look at the history of humanity being 20, 30,000 years, yeah, we could go through 100 to 200 or even 500 lifetimes in that period of time. So that's the experience that people have. That's the experience that people talk about when they go through the near-death experiences. And it's become very commonly accepted. Well, that's what's been accepted by most of humanity because that's what we have known. And then something happened. It was about 8 months ago, I had heard that process is an entrapment. It's designed to entrap you, to keep you into the reincarnation phase, and so you keep reincarnating, and it's an entrapment that we were not aware of. And I thought, well, okay, all right. And remember, I had been around this stuff for 45 years, and I had never heard that that was an entrapment until about 8 to 10 months ago. And then it was a few months ago, I purchased this book by an author that I thoroughly respect. And I have shared it with you before here on the program. And it's called The Orion Book by Wes Penray. The Orion Book. Now this one, yeah, it's quite long. It's about, it's almost 400 pages long. Wes Penray explains the transition process better than anybody I have ever seen in the 45 years I've been around this. And he explains for the first time, somebody explains how it is an entrapment process. He says that we were basically entrapped. Our souls have been entrapped into this matrix world, this fake holographic illusionary matrix world. And I've talked about that in past programs, how even physicists, science shows the fact that the world we live in is a hologram. It's not real. We aren't really truly going through these things. It's stuff that we're visionizing and seeing, but because we see it as a hologram, we have a tendency to believe it. And Penray, in his book, says the entrapment, the matrix world, was created by the Anunnaki, the chief one, Enki. Enki was the one who thousands and thousands of years ago came here, and he basically created this matrix world that has entrapped us in it. And he uses this near-death process, or the death process of going through the coma and coming back, to keep reincarnating us so he can stay in power and control over us. Now, Penray says there is a way to escape. And it's not really an escape, it's the release. He says when you go into the astral plane, instead of looking at the light, you do not pay any attention except to just one thing. You look straight up and you see a grid. And this grid is up above you and you can see it, and it's kind of got some holes in it. He describes it kind of like Swiss cheese. And when you're in the astral plane, your thoughts become immediately experienced. Your thoughts become immediately experienced. And when you go through that, you then go through the grid. And when you go through the grid is when you are returning home to heaven. Now, already a couple of you have said that Enlil was the entrapping and Enki was the kind brother. I believed that for years because that's what I had read from Zecharia Sitchin, and Sitchin had gotten that out of, the ancient Sumerian tablets. And Penray was saying, no, that's the master lie to entrap us. Enki was the asshole and Enlil was the good one. Enki was the one who entrapped us, and it was Enki who, remember, the stuff that's coming out of Sumerian tablets was placed by them. They wrote what they wanted us to believe. Enki doesn't want us to believe that he is the bad guy. He wants us to believe that he is the good one. And folks, I've read a lot of these books. I've studied this a lot. And when I read Penray, it says, this makes sense. Now, Penray isn't the only one that is saying that they had reversed it to trick us. Enki was always known as the trickster. That was his reputation. And he is tricking us as a human race to think that he was the one who was kind to us. Nope. No. It's not that way at all. Enki was the rebellious one. Enki was the one that led what was called the Lucifer Rebellion. And you'll read all of that in the book. Now, you may not want to believe that. I'm not going to get into that. That's your choice how you want to see that. But what I'm wanting to bring this up is, unless we want to be stuck and continue to stay stuck in this matrix world, at some point in time we have to learn how to release ourselves or to basically remove ourselves, escape from this matrix that was created by them. I have never seen anybody explain that as well as Penray did. Now, I showed you the Orion book, and I just got this one yesterday. He now has volume 2. And volume 2, it does a greater job of explaining the process of who we are as humans, how we are spirit-based beings, how we came into existence, and how we've been entrapped here, and how we get to free ourselves from that. But he says you don't have to wait until you go through your death process. There is a process of expanding your awareness and your consciousness, and when you do that, life begins to take on a whole new complete meaning. But at some point in time, you have to free yourself from the lower vibration process of believing the lower vibration lies that have come from Enki. He does it better than anybody. And again, I've been around this. And Penray is the best I've seen that understands this stuff. He was writing about this stuff 20 years ago, folks. 20 years ago, he was writing about this when nobody else was. Others were some of the laters that came on. Yes, I meant the primary person that was always known about the Anunnaki was Zecharia Sitchin. But Sitchin, I think, was an honest man who reported what he discovered in being able to read the ancient Sumerian tablets. But what Sitchin never really discussed was the possibilities that these tablets were fabricated. They were fabricated to trick us into believing a lie, to keep us stuck here in this matrix world. We are spirit-based beings. We have a connection with heaven. We have a connection, and he refers to it as the Mother God, the Sophia God of heaven. We are a product of her, and we carry her energy within us. But as long as we're entrapped in this world, that energy is entrapped as well, and we don't get to live our lives in the fullness. And how this applies to us today is the fact that we can free ourselves from the entrapment by being willing to free ourselves. Now, also, Joanne, yes, I recommended The Cedars by Elena Dana a while back, and she talks about Enki and Enlil. She says Enki is the good brother. I had later find out that Elena is a trickster as well, and she is not telling the truth either. She basically is in the same line that she has been fooled by Enki and the Anunnaki. I've gotten this from very, very good, trusted, what I call intuitive sources that say it. And I have even read from other sources that Elena was not telling the truth. I trusted her, what she wrote in the beginning, because it seemed very reasonable. But over a process and a period of time, Now, this is where I stand, and this is what I've come to understand. I'm not going to judge anybody. It's not a need to be right or wrong about it. There's no need to say I have to be right and you're not right. That's not an issue. It's a learning process. We are all going through a learning process on our own. We go through our own expansion process by learning through this stuff on a step-by-step basis, and there's no need to have any judgment in it. The issue comes back to how long do we want to stay in this painful, destructive matrix world, and when do we want to get out and free ourselves? Or when would we like to start now to being free of that? Now, I want to be careful how I say this. I don't want to sound egotistical. But for me, I've been working on this now for close to 10 years. And I've about what I would call the expansion or the ascension process. And I've come to this point, I don't experience fear. I don't experience anxiety. I'm pretty much at peace all the time with what is going on around me. I don't need to have to accomplish things or prove myself in anything. Life is very good for me, and life is very peaceful. We understand the energy of the universe, that like energy attracts like energy. And by keeping myself in a peaceful, high vibratory state, I attract high vibratory experiences into my life. On a practical basis, this latest trip that I took to Africa is a classic example of this. How many people are attracting the possibility of gaining millions and millions of dollars into their lives when they didn't do anything? It just found them. This whole issue of the currency exchange, this process that you get to become a multimillionaire for only a few $100s of an exchange, it finds you. I don't promote this program. I let people find me. I let people come to me by word of mouth. I'm supposed to do that. And I just let it happen. But it all falls into place and fits very well for me because I'm experiencing what I call that ascension process of life. Okay? Now, also, another person, David Clayton, had mentioned that David Icke, in his latest book, The Trap, describes this very well, the holographic matrix simulation, and we can get out. Yes, and I've read that book as well. He does, okay? So, that's kind of what I wanted to share tonight, because here's my thought. When I heard that our dear friend Blanca had made her transition, I realized she had read this book. She had read this book. She was ready to leave the matrix. And I think that's why she made her transition, because her husband Alan called me up and said, see, Blanca has for years had this physical anomaly problem. And it's just been an inconvenience to her and a discomfort to her for a number of years. Well, it was starting to pick up. And then he said a couple of days before she left, it started increasing and it got very serious. And she was of the mindset that she didn't trust what was called the medical institutions that we have here, because we knew that the medical institutions were primarily first and foremost about profit and healing secondary, because if they heal us, they don't make money off of us. And so she basically had kind of forked on the medical institutions and had worked on various types of therapies, various supplements and things like that, alternate medicine sources to keep herself functioning and doing well. And then just before her transition, it had gotten to the point that she turned to Alan and she said, I think I need to go to the hospital. And he said when she said that, he knew this was serious and she was not doing well. She was having some serious problems if she was saying, I need to go to the hospital. She said that to him. She laid down, she went to sleep, and she never got back up. She died very peacefully and restfully in her sleep. See, I think when she laid down and went to sleep, the whole issue of leaving the matrix and what she had read in the Orion book came to her, and she recognized, it's time for me to go. And I don't have to come back here anymore. It's time for me to leave this matrix world, and she looked up and she went through the grid and she went back home. She was back home in heaven, where we've all come from. She was back home with Sophia, the Mother God, where we have all come from. And she was ready for that. And she is the example, I think, for us. So we wish her well. And yes, we miss her, but ultimately that's what we all look for. That's what we all long for. And it happens for us when it's our time. What's extremely important is to understand we don't try to make this happen. David Icke in his book and others, they talk about that before we incarnate, the soul designs a contract about how long we are going to live in these physical bodies in this third dimensional world. So the soul already knows its transition time, its date. In essence, it knows when we're going to die. Now, that contract can be renegotiated. It's not etched in stone, but for most people, it is what we know. The soul knows when it's our time to go. And I think she knew that, and it was just her time to make the transition. And it will happen for all of us. We are here incarnated into these physical bodies to learn, to experience, and to grow. And we've been entrapped into this matrix world as slaves to what is called the Enki system that he created. And we don't have time to do our research and do our work. And all this fits into what is the real purpose of this currency exchange. The purpose of you becoming a multimillionaire is so that you have the freedom and the ability to leave your job, be independently wealthy, and then you have the time and the resources to do the work and the learning that it takes to change your sense of consciousness and awareness so you can make that transition and you'll be at peace with it. And you can raise your awareness and your consciousness because it takes work and it takes time to get to that place. Because we've lived these hundreds and hundreds of lives being told we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't reach this state. And that's the memory that is in our subconscious mind. And so we're always fighting the memory of the subconscious mind saying, I can't get out of here, when we can. But it takes work to reprogram that subconscious mind so when our time comes, we're ready to make the peaceful transition. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to share tonight with the program. And if any of you would like to call in and you got questions or comments, that number is 515-605-9356. And again, 515-605-9356. That's the call-in number. And I'll give maybe about a minute or so to see if anybody wants to call in and make some comments or you have some questions. Because I know there's a delay. There's about a 12-second delay from the time that I say this before it shows up, on Facebook. Now, it is live on Blog Talk Radio. Now, Blog Talk, I think, has about a 3 or 4 second delay, and then Facebook has about a 10 to 12 second delay. But there is somebody that has raised their hand, and it's area code 321. So we'll do that. We'll go to area code 321. You're coming up. Okay. Area code 321, you're on the air. What's your name and what can we do for you?
Hey, thanks, Dave. How'd you know it was me? Hey, this is Tom. I'm here in Orlando again, Dave.
Okay.
Your workshop up in Baltimore. Thanks for all you do. So I got on the call here late. I apologize, Dave. I was hoping to pick it up initially, but I'm struggling to get there on time. I was just kind of following up. I know you mentioned you had some good meetings and such, and I don't need you to be redundant or anything, but hey, I just want to check and see, is there any update on like the exchange that you have or the process or, because I know you've gone through a lot of ups and downs with this. I've been with you for 10 years now and, been there. And so I know there's some things going on this last year with, the parties, the military. I know you thought things were going to happen. Kind of went back. You thought you were going to get paid at some point, and I know it's got to be kind of frustrating for you. And just wanted to see, hey, where do you see things are at right now, or?
Well, I shared that in the beginning of the program.
Green light.
Yeah, I did share that in the beginning of the program. And, you'll be able to, if you'll get the recording tomorrow. But no, there is nothing new. We're still in the waiting phase. Everything is done and ready to go. It's the military people at the very top that are decision makers, and they're saying not yet. So that's all that we have. Okay?
Yeah, got you on that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, man. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay, somebody asked if something happens to me, do I have a person that would be responsible for the continuation of the transactions for you, or in essence dispersing the funds? Yes, I do. I do have a backup. I have a backup in case somebody happens to me, and they always get an updated list of what basically everybody in the exchange, and then they will have access to the bank accounts and the funds. So, yeah, okay. All right, so I don't see anybody else raising their hand. And so I think with that, then maybe we're willing to call it a program and call it an evening. It's been about a half hour, and it's been a pleasure to be with everybody tonight. And I do plan on being around next week. As of now, I don't have any plans on going anywhere, but I may be making a quick trip to again meet with the lady that I work with. Her name is Annie. I may be making a trip to meet with her. So to work on some more of the process of what's going on. So other than that, folks, thank you for joining me here tonight, and you're all loved and well blessed. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye-bye.